Hey, what's up guys? This is a follow-up video to our top 5 characters in Street Fighter V right now for Season 3. Joining with me is Mir. How's it going, man?
Hey guys.
So as promised, we said we're going to talk about the bottom 5 now. And, me and Mir, we've been discussing this for a while now, and this was actually really hard to kind of figure out without really, going through the matchups and stuff. And, we landed on 3, like the bottom 3 characters for sure. Like we were, like no dispute on that, but finding the last 2 was really tough. So we'll go through it. We'll show the other characters we were thinking of and just explain our logic with it. Alright, so starting with the bottom 3 characters, let's begin with Zangief. Go ahead, Mir. You can take it from here.
Poor Zangief. Well, you've seen his golden age in Season 2, but now, he's scraping the bottom. I mean, unfortunately, he has really bad matchups against lots of different characters, and really bad matchups against the top tiers, which definitely doesn't help his tournament viability.
Yeah.
He has lots of trouble to get it in against zoning, even poking in general, to be fair. And he has to take a lot of risks with his V skill to get in, like predict that, some big poke is coming his way and use that, and then maybe SPD and, start his vortex.
Yeah.
He's very meter dependent, especially on EX SPD.
Yes.
To, stay in.
Yeah.
And although, admittedly, his V triggers are okay.
Yeah.
Especially V trigger 1.
Yeah, V trigger 1 especially. It's decent.
I mean, V trigger 1's 3 bars. It still is, he has to take quite some beating to get still, even with his increased health. And
or some insane V skill absorbs,
Yeah, they just don't last very long, V trigger 1, it's good for, one mix-up really if you want to capitalize off of it by holding it down, or V trigger 2 is literally one use.
And the gray health, they still haven't changed how the gray health regenerates. Like, it's always the same rate. And we've been talking about this for a while now, is that when you, even with playing Cody now, when you build up a lot of gray health, man, it takes forever for it to come back. Like, forever. So it just makes it hard for Zangief to constantly use his V skill. And it seems like that's what Capcom wants. We're looking at the patch notes recently from Season 3. Zangief added 3 extra recovery frames on his forward medium kick. That was kind of his saving grace, where he has one more thing for the opponent to have to worry about for him to get in. That was like his last ditch thing, and that got nerfed. It's not, and when you play offline tournaments, it's really hard now. So Capcom wants Zangief players to use his V skill to get in, and it's just, you can't land it all the time. It's not completely practical, right? And now that we
unfortunately,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to say, unfortunately, when you have a lot of gray health, you're not very rewarded for being on the offense, because gray health, like we mentioned, it builds, well, not builds up, but it returns to normal health very slowly.
Yeah.
And so, maybe a proposed fix could be that it increases the rate to which you go back to normal health over time, right? By not getting hit, so that, if you have a lot of gray health, then you're on the offense, at least you're a little bit rewarded. But Zangief, like we said, has none of this, so yeah, he's definitely bottom 3 really easily.
Yeah, and they added that headbutt change to him to make him more fun combos, but still, you're not going to see it every match. And like I said, it's a very zony meta right now, so that just hurts Zangief that much more. And like you said, Mir, Zangief even has bad matchups against low-tier characters, so it just plummets him compared to his, how crazy he was in Season 2, for sure. Alright, let's move on to a somewhat similar character, another grappler, Alex. I think would be bottom 5 as well. I mean, Alex has been a low-tier character for quite some time now. A lot of the top Alex players would argue that the Season 1 Alex was actually the best version of that character, just because he had a stronger neutral with his crushing medium punch and such. The thing about Alex is that you could argue that maybe Alex's neutral is stronger than Zangief. He has some extra tools, EX Stomp, the elbows, right, that have been changed a lot. And Capcom keeps buffing his lariat. But the thing about Alex is, unlike Zangief, when Alex is actually successful in getting in, he goes back to neutral on almost everything. The power bombs, the headbutts, everything just leads back to neutral. Unlike Zangief, where when he gets in, he actually gets reward. He can stick to you. So
yeah, by spending meter, he can put you in a vortex essentially.
yeah, but with Alex, it's a no go. So that's the problem. Alex basically has to hope that he stuns you and gets you into the lethal area. Otherwise, he's just gonna go back to neutral and have the same problem. So Alex has some strengths that Zangief doesn't, but at the same time, he has more cons as well. So it just kind of equals out. When we look at the patch notes of Alex recently, he still has poor anti-airs, and he just gets overpowered with, and they keep buffing his strength, which is his lariat, but they're not buffing his weaknesses, and until they do that, we won't see Alex climb up the tier list, I feel. Anything else about Alex you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I would also mention that he's defensively very weak, and he's basically forced to, pick V-Trigger 1 over V-Trigger 2, even though V-Trigger 2 is a pretty good V-Trigger.
Yeah.
Just because his defensive options are so bad, just to get that parry.
The parry, really helps.
Yeah, exactly. And even then you can bait it out, right? And then, of course, the follow-up is safe.
Yeah. Okay. And the third character that we were sure that we agreed on would be bottom 5 is Vega.
Yeah, poor Vega.
Poor Vega.
How far he's fallen.
Tell us the story, Mir.
Well, okay, so the story of Vega, which is a very sad story for every Vega player, but it basically starts with he has no consistent anti-airs. Even though he has, special moves and normal moves that might look like anti-airs, they're just not reliable at all.
Robust V-triggers, man. Sorry.
No, we'll get there.
Okay.
He also has, with and without Claw, he has kind of bad conversions from the ranges he usually plays at.
Yeah.
He can get decent damage, but, it requires a very clean jump in, and then you can land your max damage combos. But otherwise, from neutral, you don't get a lot. You are very reliant on meter because you want to use the EX wall dive for combos, or the EX roll. He has a lot of unsafe options. The V-Skull is not that good, not even to get past zoning. And, it's been buffed recently, but, it's still subpar choice, I would say.
Okay.
Claw in general, like the Claw stance is not that good because of the extended hurt boxes. Jumping heavy punch was a nightmare in previous games, and this game is like, I don't know.
Gets jabbed.
It's very bad. And his normal wall dives also got nerfed, and
yes,
they're basically, unusable at this point.
Well, Capcom kept on using them. Or sorry, not you. Capcom kept on buffing them. The wall dives, and then eventually they're like, okay.
And then they cut his legs.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, V-triggers are abysmal, I would say.
Horrible V-triggers.
Yeah, V-trigger 2 is like arguably one of the worst V-triggers in the game. And V-trigger 1 got nerfed. Like, they nerfed the damage, and then the additional scaling also.
Yeah, and then the universal nerf, the double whammy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, Vega is a collection of really annoying things, and yeah, that makes him a really bad character, unfortunately. Even though he's very successful online, but that's another story.
Alex is a lot better online too. Even Zangief, because those characters have an easier time to dash in and jump in, right?
As it turns out, when you can react to things, it really helps.
Yes, there you go. That's true. Okay. So at this point, guys, if we would say these characters for sure would be the bottom 3, and if we were gonna put like a letter rank or something, we would say like these characters are D. Okay. So these next 2 characters for our bottom 5, it was so hard for us to figure it out. These would be, we'd say C- or low mid tier characters. Okay. So the next character we talk about for our bottom 5 list is Ryu. So Ryu, man, this character, he was way up there in Season 1, but he just never seems to recover, and it's kind of sad because it's very similar to Street Fighter 4 how he ended up, He was a very good character, and then they hit him so hard that he just had so much troubles coming back. But Ryu was getting better and better every patch until very recently they just did this crazy nerf to his V-Trigger 1 where they raised the length of the timer, but now it drains on his DPs, and I think that just killed the character. Ryu's had
it's
very poor
pretty bad.
V-triggers for a long time now, and the problem with him is, like, you might say, well, Ryu, he has all the tools. How could he possibly be so low on the list? The problem is these tools are very weak. I mean, his strongest thing is probably his zoning, but when it comes
they're very inconsistent.
yeah, when it comes to neutral, man, his limbs are way too stubby. He's very meter reliant. He's got to do EX Fireball just to get in most of the time to win neutral, to knock you down and get you in. And then his V triggers, like I said, are very poor, and they don't convert well unless you land like a crush counter. But even that has higher scaling now with the latest patches. But his V trigger conversions are very poor. You know, most of the time Ryu players are doing crouching hard kick into V trigger just to get a knockdown. Most of the time, because it's so stubby. You know, the EX donkey kick is great, but there are some inconsistencies on how he's able to land it in the first place. He needs clean hits. I mean, Ryu's damage was always there. His V-Trigger 1 damage was always there. Like, his V-Trigger 1 on paper is very strong, but the problem with it is it just doesn't last long at all.
Yeah, it's way too short to be threatening, and you can just zero it out most of the time.
Exactly. So that's the problem with Ryu right now. And you know, Capcom keeps trying to buff his fireballs, buff his crouching medium kick and such, but with the V-Trigger meta right now, you know, it's just not enough, especially when you have such strong neutral characters, man. Guile, Abigail, Cammy, I mean, Minot, it just goes on. It's just hard for Ryu to... You can't zone forever in this game, you know, you just can't. There's just too much damage on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when Ryu doesn't have really good neutral of his own. Like, he has to play more of a rushdown style in this game, which is, you know, unusual for a Shoto style character like he is. You know, maybe Ken was more built towards offense, but definitely not Ryu. And so he suffers right now because his tools are not that good.
Yeah. Okay, and the final character for our bottom 5, and just to clarify once again, we put this in the same area, Ryu, lower mid-tier character, is Sakura. I thought it's only natural to put her beside Ryu because they're both kind of similar characters, right? They just have different weaknesses. Sakura, I think, has some of the worst V-triggers in the game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Sakura's V-triggers are peculiar in the sense that, especially V-trigger 2, removes options, which is very strange. Like, it gives you more powerful conversions.
Yeah.
For example, for, you know, your Tatsus and stuff, but then they are all unsafe on block now.
Right.
So you just have to play a very different game that's not, you know, as safe.
Exactly.
And what V-Trigger 1 doesn't give you that much more either, so...
No.
Yeah, they're pretty bad V-Triggers.
Yeah.
Her conversions are debatable at best. I mean, she's got a good feign light kick, but the range at which she needs to stand to get, like, the max damage is, like, literally in front of you, and...
And
you can't always be there.
It's still a light kick mirror, you know. With the priority system, it's still a light kick. It can still get crush countered.
Yeah, no, exactly. Fireball doesn't help because she has a fireball, but it's basically as if she didn't have one.
Yeah, it's like fault tier.
Because it's very bad. I mean, there was that nice buff where, you know, you can use V-skill a little bit more now from like cancel from more things, but even then V-skill in and of itself is not that good, so you don't get like a lot of power from such a change. And she's pretty bad against zoning too. Yeah. She gets zoned down easily.
Hard times is too slow. You have to anticipate. EXDP
the fireballs are their fireballs are not for winning a fireball war. They're more like for enduring it, if that makes, you know, like, since they don't go full screen. That really hurt. But yeah, so like we said, Sakura and Ryu are similar characters in that sense, but, you know, unfortunately that makes her bottom 5, as we just discussed.
Feels bad, man.
Feel bad.
I mean, Capcom is definitely paying close attention to Sakura because she's the most popular character in the poll. Not right now. I don't see too many Sakura.
Yeah, no, of course.
But if you look at her patch changes, it's huge. It's just that none of them are significant. They're all very little changes.
I think, like, in general with Street Fighter V, Capcom is very afraid to, you know, like, when they are bringing back returning characters, they're trying to make them different just because, you know, maybe in previous games, like, just the system mechanics were so different so that, you know, they could play that way. But in Street Fighter 5, they're trying to rework them into something, I mean, arguably more fair and more balanced, but it doesn't just work out all the time when the top tiers are so top tier, you know, compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, the V trigger, like it or not, it's a very important to have comeback factor with your V trigger. I would say that Alex and Zangief, out of these 5 we mentioned, have the best comeback factor on their V triggers, but it's hard for them to land those 2 characters, right? So at the same time, it becomes very unreliable. All these characters are so hard to make comebacks with their V triggers. They're not explosive. And then another interesting thing, which we pointed out before, Mir, is that our top 5 characters, all of them don't have 1,000 health. They all have lower than 1,000 health. Akuma, Ibuki, Guile, Manath, Cammy, all below 1,000 health. And they give Zangief and Alex more than 1,000 health to help compensate for what they lack in their neutral. They can help get it in, but obviously it's not enough, right? It's not reliable enough. Yeah.
Yeah, the only exception I would say to a high tier character having lots of health would be Abigail, just because it's a crazy amount of health. Like that's so much, you know, and combined with the rest of the kit, that's really strong.
It is, yeah.
That helps him a lot. But yeah, like you said, you know, giving more health to bad characters is not necessarily gonna make them that much better, unless it's a crazy amount.
For sure. All right, well, before we close this up, Mira, I think we should do a special mention. A lot of people probably wondering what we think about Falk, right? Because she's a very recent character. And Falk, the thing about her is that she's very linear, but I think that Falk stomps the lower tier characters, even though she would be low in it herself, right? I feel like she's somewhere lower mid as well, but I think that her normals are, if you play her perfectly, of course, they're still long range. They can still beat these characters without have these huge neutral issues, right? Falk's neutral is not that bad. So.
Yeah, she can beat every character that has a worse neutral than her, basically.
Basically, yeah. And she can be a wild card sometimes too, especially in that Cammy matchup, which I would like to explore more for sure.
Yeah, more of a counter pick character at this point in time. Maybe in the future she'll be more, well-rounded and less linear, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, guys, let us know what you think about this list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? If not, who else would you replace with who? Like, what about Ed, Zeku, Jury? The list goes on. And yeah, man, we should do some more stuff like this in the future, Mir, as Capcom continues to patch the game. Do us a solid, guys. Please like the video and be sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. And Mir, thanks again for helping with this video, man.
No problem.
All right, guys. Till next time, take care.
See ya.